to use it in the reporting cycles to the financial regulators, which is a different source, a different use of the information than what is usually available in the registry, because the legislation on this point requires such companies to have an LEI. And going in fact behind your question, yes, it would be lovely to have an agreement with the Danish Business Authority that they immediately issue an LEI to all companies in Denmark.
Thank you. Thank you, Zornica. We will close, we could applause. Now I will close the session, and I would like to thank again all the 6 presenters for the high quality of their presentation. And we could applaud all the 6 of them again. And we will now have a keynote speaker before the lunch break, and I give the floor to the keynote speaker. Thank you.
Questo?
Sì.
Ok. Faccio una piccola introduzione.
Falla bellissima, che poi ci penso
io. So we come to the last keynote speech of the meeting. It's a keynote speech on the TOOP project, once only principal project. Speaker will be Dr. Alessia Neuroni. Professor Dr. Alessia Neuroni is Deputy Head of the E-Government Institute at the Bern University of Applied Science and leads there the research unit linked and open data, the competence team operation, process and project management, and the specialization enterprise architecture in the bachelor's program in business informatics. National data infrastructures are the focus on her research activity. It's true, no?
Yes, it's true.
Okay. She participates in international activity and leads interdisciplinary projects. Please, Alessia.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Claude. Hello, everybody. I'm Alessia. I'm a Swiss researcher, and I'm really glad today, before lunch, having the opportunity to present you a European project. It's an Horizon 2020 project. It's quite weird that a Swiss researcher has the opportunity being here and present to such an audience a European project. Well, for me, it's a very important invitation. It's an honor being here on the stage. I am an e-government researcher, and if I have a look at the past, where do I see the most important impacts and the most thriving and innovative projects in my area? I always see a link to the statistical offices. And so I'm not here today as a keynote speaker. I'm seeing myself having the opportunity to get an advertising window. I will try to keep it short, and I would really love to start or having the opportunity to get in touch and trying to establishing for the future collaboration. I want to make sure that you will not leave Neuchâtel today without knowing what is the once only principal project. Okay, this is basically my goal, my intention. I wanna make sure that everyone here knows that the European Commission supports these initiatives. It's an initiative from the e-government perspective, but we need your know-how, and we need as well your experiences and use cases in order to make sure and scale it up as well for other agencies. Okay, this is at least from my part the intention from today. Well, yesterday I was in Vienna as a Swiss delegate. We had a very important high-level conference on digital and e-government. It's always the same when prime ministers meet. It's on a very high level and political, usual suspects topics. I think especially for those coming from Europe, it's quite clear the digital single market is a target for Europe. When I'm trying to summarize the most important topics discussed so far yesterday, I'm thinking about user centricity, I'm thinking about trust, and quite important, the relevance of key enablers, the relevance of unique identifiers. And I think, and I'm quite sure that talking from unique identifiers with such an audience, it's a big thank for all the work you are doing in your countries in pushing these important enablers for the digital services of public administrations. These are really important building blocks in order to ensure efficiency and effectiveness, and going back as well to the topic discussed before, quality, not only in the services but on the data services as well. Good. I brought you a statement for Mr. Ansip, his Commission Vice President for the Digital Single Market. I think from his statement, one of the most important thing is the more we are trying to push the design of cross-border services, and especially with focus on data sets, the interoperability plays a crucial role, not only on the legal aspects, but I'm thinking as well on the semantical level. And I heard in the coffee break this week you already had one time mentioned the relevance of the Tallinn Declaration on e-government. Exactly 1 year ago, the ministers of the European member states and EFTA countries met in Estonia and agreed on a strategy that focuses or put the focus on the user centricity. The topic or the goal will be to make sure that by 2020, the user centricity in the e-government services is reality. We spent the last 3 days discussing, at the end, I'm still a researcher, and we discussed how we can measure and make sure that we really get there in the next couple of years. What is important, or the reason why I mentioned it today, is the 6 principles that are conducting the direction of the Tallinn Declaration. You can see it here. And besides openness and transparency or interoperability by default, one of the most promising and most relevant principle is the once only. What do I mean by once only? The idea here, or the view of the Commission and the view of the European project, is not to have the data owner submit or provide the information twice. The main goal is to avoid the submission of information that already exists, and so avoid the administration burden of providing it. You can see here on the slide the red words. I mean, we are talking about collecting and storing. Basically, I spent the last 10 years as business information engineers in a federated system. I think it's quite utopic thinking that from a European point of view, you are pushing the once only collection and storing. In our project, we are just focusing the collection, and we do strongly believe that the storing will be a national matter. I mean, every country will need to deal with it. The idea is to enable automated data sharing, replacing redundant data collection, and making sure to improve data reliability. I'm coming to the concrete project. We are talking about a large-scale pilot wanted by the European Commission that started last year and will end approximately in 1 year. There are different countries, more than 20 countries working in this project, more than 50 entities. We are working with a triple helix concept. We have public administrations, universities, and companies from different countries in the consortium. The coordination is in the head of my colleague Robert Krimmer. He is in Tallinn University of Estonia, and he's covering as well the political matters. It is, even though a technical project, we are trying, I mean, it's Horizon 2020 project, meaning we are trying to develop an architecture that enables this once only principle cross-border, meaning we have as well pilots that will be tested on a technical level, and the head of the technical task is in Greece. Lefteris Leonardidis is a pilot manager in the consortium. What's the aim of this 2.5-year project? We are going on two different levels. On one side, we wanted to explore and demonstrate the implementation of the once only principle across borders through multiple sustainable pilots, focusing, and now, on data from business. There are different projects in the European Union focusing the once only. On one side for citizens, and on the other side for business. And our main focus is on business. We want to develop an architecture that enables better exchange of data or documents of businesses with and between public administrations. I think on one side, we have the task of make sure that we can comply with data protection legislation, meaning from our legal constraints, and on the other side, and one more time, I'm Swiss, I'm not part of the European legislation framework, make sure that digital economy is not just taking places in Europe. This is a European-funded project, but we need to make sure as well that it's compatible as well with other entities that are relevant for a digital economy. Okay. On one side, we try to work on a theoretical level, and on the other side, we need to be very concrete, with very concrete scenarios and use cases. And as we started the project, we decided to focus on 3 concrete pilot scenarios. On one side, e-procurement. This is something very typical for the e-government community. On the second part, the updating connected company data. And now you understand perhaps why for me it's so important to get in touch with you. And the third part, it's the maritime pilot, focusing concrete licenses and permissions in the maritime area. We have on the base two baseline scenarios. On one side, the data pool, and on the other side, the data push. Give me the opportunity to have this slide concrete on the second pilot, updating connected company data. We wanna business registers providing data to external e-government services and to each other cross-border. We have BRIS, business registers interconnection systems. I think the most challenging part for us right now is to make sure that we can work together with BRIS in order to develop something that enhance building blocks that we already have. On the other side, the BRIS regulation enables certain areas and certain concrete scenarios, but we need to focus as well situations that are not included in this directive, such as, for example, the registration of a new company branch abroad, or providing a notification service for monitoring changes in a company wide abroad. Okay, I'll do it very shortly. I know, it's very soon lunchtime, but I have the need to share it with you, the basic assumptions on the architectural perspective of the solution. Basic concepts and the one's only principal needs. We have on one side data providers, you for example, but not just statistical offices. We have as well domain-specific data providers and general-purpose-based registers. And on the other side, we have data consumers in terms of an e-government electronic service. So far, it's a bilateral connection. More and more, we see on national levels the arising of national data aggregators. The idea of the project, of the European project, is to make sure that we get a national once-only principle layer. The idea is to enforce the national level, and the problem is, in a cross-border context, you need to make sure that the different countries are able and interoperable on an international context. And this is the idea of the top federation that acts as a cross-border once-only layer. Okay, it's unbelievable complicated, this slide. What I wanted just to show is the idea of the top federation of federation. It's not to avoid already existed and well-proven and established components, but give the opportunity to where there is not yet a component that is relevant to make sure that the interoperability is given. How does it work today? We have an eGov services to any base registers cross-border, and it can go directly on the top federation. If you have the eGov services to business register cross-border, you have here the two opportunities depending who is talking to whom. On one side, you can go through the top federation and then through the national level, or for those attached to BRIS, over BRIS. I talked about the simple pull or the push and notify scenario for the exchange of data set in the business registers activities. For me, important from these slides, it's on one side, the data consumer and data provider, what is meant being provided by TOP, and what needs to focus the TOP as a service. We have in Europe building blocks, as for example, eIDAS. We have by shore already established delivery infrastructures, and the relevance will be to develop something that makes sure that the interconnection between the consumer and the provider is given, for example, by the semantic mapping. Where do we are so far? We started with the concrete pilots last month. Greece and Sweden are part of it right now. Until yet, we worked with dummy data sets in order to understand where are the necessities and in which direction are we going. One more time, I think we are a lot of engineers, but without the sensitivity of the domain aspects and the needs of the domain aspects and the know-how of the domain aspects. And so my appeal will be, look, we are quite open. We would like to get in touch with you. Come, join. We want to learn and pilot all together. I don't want to take you much more time from your lunch. I brought as well a TOP service demo. I think if you're really interested in the TOP project, I gave the slides, and I'm sure they will be uploaded this afternoon on our homepage. Have a look at it, and thank you very much for your attention and for being here in Switzerland. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Alicia, questions?
Yes.
Thank you very much for this presentation. Actually, we are doing the same in the GCC countries. We are 6 countries only, and we are in the process of initiating this project, which is having a central database in the statistics office, which is fed automatic by the updates from all the countries when it is happening. So we are going to store it once and just getting the updates. We are not asking the data every time. And to do so, we initiated also 6 projects in each country to evaluate their administrative records and to see if it's, now we are talking about e-services, but we are talking about statistics. So it's a little bit different. The prerequisites are different. So we care about classification, definitions, standards, and all these kind of things. So we are studying now the situation in these 6 countries from infrastructure point of view. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you that we are lucky in this region because we have a well-advanced information technology infrastructure. We have, in each country, we have unique identifier for individuals, addresses, establishments for each country, in each country. So the linkages and the integration wouldn't be technically difficult. It will be logistically difficult, of course. But from technical point of view, I think we are ready to do this. But what is the difference between our situation and what you've talked about? You are funded by Horizon 2020. We are not. And
Perhaps it's more sustainable, okay? And I'm not joking. I mean, the most important problem or the most challenge that we have right now is to make sure that after the moment that Brussels stop giving us money, we will still have the stakeholder interested and motivated in realizing the architecture that we discussed so far.
And we are looking for a consultancy company to do it for us, or an implementer to
Okay.
consultancy. But I think you are doing it by only local experts in the European Union, right?
Okay. Thank you very much for. I think I would love to exchange the coordinates afterwards, because I think you mentioned you are basically working on a shared infrastructure in the topic of statistics. And for us, I mean, we have one use case where it's quite clear we are working with statistical offices. I think so far we have 3 statistical offices from European Union members and from Switzerland being part of this project. And the technical aspects are not really different. So the dialogue, exchanging, I'm assuming it can be really interesting. You asked as well, I mean, how do we work? Or how do we organize ourselves if we have local experts? I mean, it's a European project. You have different organizations in charge for concrete tasks. Meaning, for example, Switzerland right now, the main challenge or the main aspect is the feasibility and the sustainability approach. Okay, if you need an exchange or a peer in order to discuss the technical implementation, I would be really glad to make the bridge to Lefteris Leonarditis in Thessaloniki, Greece. That's the pilot manager. Okay, very welcome.
Very good chance. Yeah. Thank you.
I will do it.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I met yesterday a colleague of you. You are always very strong when we are talking about. Sorry.
No, well, thank you, and thank you for shedding a light on this topic. As you then already may know, that in the Netherlands we can consider ourselves as very, very lucky, because we have a system or network of 13 basic administrations, different kinds of unique administrations. They have been connected via unique keys, so it's a real network. It's coordinated in that way, and unique variables are identified. So the once only principle is already in there. As statisticians, that is, of course, like the holy grail. And I think the thing is that, especially the fact that it's coordinated. Now, if you're not that lucky, and you do have all these kind of administrative sources, but they are not connected, I could imagine that a statistical bureau could have the role or play a role in the coordination of these different administrations, for instance, via the statistical business register. However, if I look at the organizations that are joined in this project, if I'm correct, there is not any statistical office.
There are 3 so far, yes.
Involved, okay. Because I would like you to elaborate on how the statistical offices could get more involved in this project.
Okay, thank you very much. One more time, when I'm an e-government researcher, when I'm having a look at base registries as a very heart of a public infrastructure, works and are relevant. Netherlands, Denmark, UK are very important lighthouses for us. Unfortunately, the pace, it's not the same. I mean, I put it a little bit visualization of the 8 ministries attending yesterday at this conference in Vienna. And on your left, you see Austria, and exactly on the right was the invitation of Prime Minister of Azerbaijan. And I think the huge challenge relies in the fact that in a supranational coordination work, you need to deal with member states or with national states that have completely different maturity levels, completely different legal and political frames that goes in this direction. This is the first step. The second step, what you mentioned is, look, why are you just getting a project, a consortium where statistical offices could help a lot, and basically you have a couple of them in the consortium? Fair enough, I'm here. You need to know how you get money in the European Commission or in Horizon 2020 projects. There's a call. There's a colleague in a European state that has a very good idea and very strong connections, and we try to develop something from the technical point of view, and then we need colleagues from companies and public administrations. And you are in a hurry, meaning you need to deliver usually in a couple of weeks, okay? We realized that it doesn't make sense trying to push and to foster the once-only principle just with a couple of federal statistical offices or national statistical offices. They need to play a more important role. And this is, I mentioned, I don't see my speech here today as a keynote, but it's much more an advertising window where I can just put my need or just start a dialogue with people where I think we can really improve the dialogue and have an impact in such a direction. Thank you.
More questions?
I'm hungry. I'm really sorry, I'm not used to eat such late. Okay. We're in Switzerland.
Stop. We stop, and if there are questions, you can ask the questions during the lunch break. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I wish you a very nice and interesting afternoon as well.
Claude, when shall we return?
Okay. We come back at 1:45. It's okay?